the 5¼ inch floppy disk drive was an innovation in the 70s, the 3½-inch disk drive will be the disk of the 80s.
What starts out as a robot can be broken down by folding its arms and legs.
I come home in the morning, I go to bed feeling the same way. I ain't nothing but tired. Man, I'm just tired and bored with myself.
They're not just regular cops, okay? They're super cops.
Police! You're all under arrest! The confinement stream from you, okay? Go! Okay, hold him up there. He's gonna move. Hold him up. Go!
It's an exciting place to be right now, Sarajevo.
Welcome to the opening ceremonies of the Games of the 23rd Olympiad at Los Angeles.
Sports in the Tribune. Incisive, perceptive, and best of all, no bull.
It's a tribute to you, the Chicago Tribune.
I actually started on April Fool's Day in 1984, and I'm not sure what that means, that it was April Fool's Day. It's sort of like, I don't know what the idea that, given the significance of 30 in the newspaper business, the fact that we do this for 30-year vets, it's kind of this sort of a lurking beneath the surface. Is that what this means? No, I certainly hope not. I would certainly like to keep going for, well, a good while longer.
I spoke with Dick Locher, who was another political cartoonist at the Tribune at the time, and said, "Can you be here in 2 weeks?" And I said, "Sure." So hung up and realized I'd never shown a portfolio. I hadn't even gone downtown. And yet I had a job at the world's greatest newspaper.
You know, my dream was to be a foreign correspondent. And the one offer I had was from the Christian Science Monitor, and they basically said, fly to Africa and, send us some stuff back, and if we like it, maybe we'll publish the stuff and maybe we'll pay you $50 per article.
So I started out covering a whole variety of things. In 1986, I did 10 or 15 enormous features on a whole variety of subjects, including Ty Cobb, the ghost of Ty Cobb, and going to see Denny McClain in prison, and going down to see Refrigerator Perry in his native habitat in South Carolina.
I was in Chad and had never written a news story before, and I remember meeting Ray Mosley for the first time, the great Chicago Tribune reporter, and Leon Dash from the Washington Post. And I remember, a couple of these correspondents literally sitting me down and teaching me how to write a lead and how to write a nut graph.
I went to the sports editor and I said, hoping that he would buy this argument, I think we should have somebody following the Olympics full time. I think it's becoming a big bit of news, but the internal politics and all this other stuff. And much to my delight and amazement, they agreed with me. So that's how I got started in what has led to my going to now. Sochi was my 17th Olympic Games. Wow. 10 straight winter and 7 summer.
And the reality was, I got, basically 2 offers, and one was from David Bergen, the, great editor of the Orlando Sentinel, said, I don't know if you can write worth shit, but, you got clips, it looks like you're pretty smart, I'll hire you, I'll take a chance. From there, got hired in Orlando, and 5 years later, came to the Tribune.
Clout Street which is the comic strip I was working on, looked like it was going to come to an end. And then one Christmas Eve, there was a party upstairs, and I was given the news it was over with. So my first day on the job, I walk in and Steve Spengros, who was the graphics editor at the time, said, sit down at this desk, and there was this thing called a computer sitting there. And he says, okay, you're going to do a lot of your work on this, so figure it out, learn it and everything. I said, well, are there any tutorials? He said, nope, just figure it out. I had no idea what I was doing, where I was going with it. I'm just clicking away. Came in the next morning, and Steve walks over to me, and he looks a little upset. And he said, somebody threw away A-Create, which was our graphics server where everything sat on. Luckily, we did backups every night. I looked at him, I said, well, I don't know. I could have done it. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I don't know. So I got tutorials the next day.
Two of the most amazing experiences I've had on this beat was getting to meet 2 very significant historical figures of the 20th and 21st century, Fidel Castro and Nelson Mandela. A small number of us got invited into a room for a little press conference with Nelson Mandela, and it was the only time I think in my entire life I've actually been awestruck in the presence of a person. And then Castro, in 1987, after a long dinner, we were sort of whisked at midnight to the Palace of the Revolution and stuck in a room for a while and waited for a long while to have an audience with Castro. And then one of the mementos of that, Castro was a huge baseball fan, and he signed baseballs for everybody. And so in my living room on a little étagère, I have a Fidel Castro autographed baseball.
I'll never forget, getting a call from a family member who's, who had their loved one killed 10 years ago, and we found that fugitive, and that fugitive was extradited and brought back to the States, and they were calling us to thank us. I mean, to be able to have that kind of impact on somebody's life in a very real way. There are very few moments in life when you can do that, especially in your professional life. And those kinds of moments are something that I will never forget.
The 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, I wrote a story for the Tribune explaining why Barcelona was not Spain. That Catalonia is a completely different place. And I really enjoyed telling that kind of story so that people can, we're now a so interconnected world that I think for people to understand other parts of the world, it's really important. And sport is a very easy way to lure in an audience that might not otherwise be reading about those sorts of things.
I love everyone for what they are and the beauty they bring, but this guy is the way I would like to feel all the time. I don't always feel that way. But he reminds me to look silly, act silly, have a good time, and eventually that's what you feel like.
We're part of this incredible institution, this historic institution. We're here for a brief period of time. This place is going to go on after us, and it is a blessing that we are here with this opportunity to do the kind of work that we do every day.